Question 329. Should assisted suicide be legal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Why not?
With preface that for people who are in chronic pain or dying,
Why?
I think other people should have therapy to help them overcome their things. But yeah,
We're talking about the
So
underlying
you
premise
don't-
here, rather than the specifics
the
of
underlying
implementation.
premise, yes.
Go on, Bill.
Don't think somebody should be able to opt for it.
You chose me to answer this question deliberately because you already know what my answer is, don't you?
Very much so.
And that's why I was
Yes,
trying
suicide
to
should be legal,
override
assisted
Bill's-
and otherwise. In any situation, absolutely yes, suicide should 100% be legal. It is your life and you have the right to end it as you see fit.
This is why I was trying to override Bill's answer and challenge Jen on it. Because I know his answer, I know my answer. Her answers seem to be slightly ambiguous in a certain way,
No,
and a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah, well, I agree. Well, I don't think people should just take their lives. I think they should look for help first.
Well,
But
so
I'm totally for having euthanasia.
I totally think that there should be, at the very minimum. Well, I mean, what's the old joke about? What's the sentence for suicide? It's life in prison. What's the punishment for attempted suicide? So I think it's sorry, now I'm ruining the joke. And it's not a good joke to begin
Yeah, you
with.
got it the wrong way round.
But it's
Right.
something along the lines of what's the punishment for attempted suicide? It's life imprisonment. What's the punishment for committing suicide? It's
Death penalty.
you're free to go.
Right, quick questions. Natty says, yes, make suicide boots a thing. Bad-tempered Badger screams, Dave, you had to fucking ask this question while I'm not there. I've got a whole fucking sit on this one here.
If Badger wants to answer it, I'll jump out for a second.
Or I will.
I did offer. Sammy says, for medical reasons, yes.
I mean, I think that people who are dealing with chronic mental illness, the first step, as Jen said, should be therapy. And
But that's
think
it's not that
I get
I'm not disagreeing with the thing. The underlying premise, though, is we're discussing is whether or not it should be allowed as a principle.
I
Yes,
think
I agree
that
with that.
if somebody kills themselves, obviously there's nothing you can do.
Yes,
If
but at the moment
somebody
it's the
wants,
actively
if somebody.
stopping them.
Sorry, I'm not trying to overtalk you, but I am trying to make my point.
Go on.
If somebody wants to kill themselves, there's not a lot you can do about it other than talk to them. I mean, you can absolutely, if it comes to it, force them into a padded cell, take away anything they could possibly use to harm themselves. That's an option, and that's not dealing with the problem. I just hours ago was dealing with somebody who I really care about, who had posted something online that made me think that maybe she was suicidal, and had a long conversation with her and felt confident in ending the conversation that she was feeling better. I've done this with Bill, not to call him out, but this is something that people
It's all
deal
good,
with.
dude. Everyone knows. Most people know.
Well, some of us know. Now everybody here knows.
I want to
now
hear
everyone
Badger's
knows.
answer. Hop in, Badger.
it's one of those things where if somebody's dealing with that, the best thing you can possibly do is try and get them help. You can force them into intervention, and then if you can't help them, they're just going to cycle back into where they were. And maybe you did nothing. Maybe you just wasted 2 years of your life and their life and all the resources that you forced them to go through, whether it's therapy or whatever. And then they get out of it and go kill themselves. It's just really something where it's better to make that human connection, give them a support network, build it up from the bottom up rather than force them into anything. And yeah, I think that's my piece on that. If you want to talk more about it, let me know.
Fair enough. I'm going to quickly run through the chat. Everyone's got a right to exit in their own time.
Badger says he's coming.
I know, I gave him the link. Julie says, as someone who's had suicidal
ideations.
Oh, right there.
I'll drop for
You
a couple of
can
minutes. For Badger
kick
if
me
you want.
out also at any point.
Just let me finish reading this. 2 seconds, Badger. Let me finish catching up on the chat, but I'll ignore your messages.
Apologies if it isn't.
That's okay. Lost a dear friend to suicide. I say go to therapy, take your fucking meds. Things can be more traumatizing for friends and family if you don't give them a humane option. It should be my Robert says it should be my life to decide on. By the way, if I wanted to end my life, I would just try to stop me unless I'm in hospital. Not really sure I get that. Natty, I like how some people can go to therapy and treatment, recover like with drug addiction, but having the option to have a humane clean out should be available because some people can't. And the one problem I've got with that is that there are making people go through certain things therapy-wise can be prolonging the torture.
Yes.
2 seconds. I need to finish the chat. I'm going to catch up. If Trump is legal, so should suicide be. Natty, to be permanently institutionalized is no life at all.
Okay, I like that.
It's the most tragic laugh I've had in months.
Robert, I agree with everything, but it's still technical, still suicide when someone else does it for you. Yes, it is. Natty, yes, it's called assisted suicide. Some people can. More about clean exits. Right, okay. Badger.
4 years ago, my uncle died of cancer, and we saw that, and we always went there. And that was in Luxembourg, where officially assisted suicide is legal.
Yeah.
But he didn't look into it, and he suffered dearly for it, and it robbed him. The inability to take his own life robbed him of the last dignity and agency he ever had. Which is very different from someone being in a crisis or having mental problems, not taking their meds or whatever, and then opting for suicide. Those are different cases, actually.
Yes, no, I completely agree. But like I said, we're trying to stick to the underlying premise, rather than the specific circumstances.
Right, I've got my headset on now, so hopefully it won't echo.
Go on.
Oh, now you sound like you're in a spaceship.
I am in a space. No, I'm not. I'm in the woods. Anyway.
Aren't we all?
I can get in a spaceship if you like.
No, just say your piece.
Alright, I have 2 comments on this.
Sorry, I'm a huge interrupter.
That's alright. The first comment is as follows. The state does not own you. You have no obligation to continue to live to keep other people happy. If each individual person should have the right to decide if they want to continue to exist. And my other comment is, it is It is what I consider my biggest failing as a person.
Mm-hmm.
That when my
Thank you.
grandmother, who was in the early stages of Alzheimer's, asked me to smother her with a pillow rather than continue to live and gradually see her mind fall apart and no longer be able to recognise her family. It is my biggest failing in my perception of myself that I wasn't brave enough to do that for her, rather than let her continue to suffer.
Yeah. I cannot.
Sorry,
I empathise with that so much.
Yeah.
It
Do you have your
is.
glass? Bring your glass. It's in the living room.
We are brought up in this country that it is horrific to consider that, and yet we are faced with actually dealing with people that are in those that is in that condition that wants to end it so badly.
My follow-on. No, I have unmuted myself again.
Not.
My follow-on from that is that what I
Sorry, it's here.
should have
It's
done
here.
is just done it and fucked the
Yeah,
consequences.
yeah, here.
Yeah.
There's one in the sink and there's one here.
But I didn't, and I feel that I failed because of it.
Mm.
I always have one when I go to bed.
Yeah, you got it?
Yeah.
I have similar feelings about my uncle going. That would have been, could have been, should have been, should have done something.
Mm.
So I understand where you come from.
Yeah,
Also,
I'm
my
so
grandma
sorry,
also
guys.
died of Alzheimer's, so I know what you went through there. So that's also heartbreaking.
Right. Yeah. Sorry to jump in and bring the mood down.
No, that's
but
okay.
No, it's,
I
it's
have
cool.
a very
That's
strong
actually.
opinion.
No.
It sums up an awful lot of the points we've been making.
That's
Yeah.
just
In a
I
much more
have a very
realistic
strong
way.
opinion on. I wanted to make sure that that side of it is heard because for
And
someone
no
who-
one's down on you for this, Badger. I mean, in all honesty, all I want to do now is give you a great big hug because
oh, I think
it's sad and I care about you, and you shouldn't have to keep hammering yourself over this. It was a situation that happened, and it doesn't mean you were weak. Just because you couldn't bring yourself to do that, it doesn't mean you're a weak person. Doesn't mean you weren't a loving grandson. It just is something that's really hard to do, and that's why other options are needed for people. You know, there are people who
Yep.
are strong enough
I
to
agree.
help other people, and that's why those options have to be there. It shouldn't come down to one member of the family having to be the person who does it.
Well, it's not just
There
that,
should
though, is
be
it?
other
It's one member of the family having to basically ruin their own life to do what is right.
That's right.
I eventually will go to jail.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Shush.
Yeah.
Just.
my the other comment that I have on that is that from the perspective of my grandmother, she had been Christian her whole life, though not hugely devout. She was she would go to the church. She would her perspective of sort of family events came from that view of things. So to me, for her to ask me to do that, I think was a huge thing for her as well.
Yeah. Just know that you're loved, Badger, and we all care about you, and sending you lots of hugs.
Right, I'm going to move on. Go on.
I'm going to jump out, but thanks very much for letting me in just to say my bit.
That's okay. Thank you very much for coming and sharing.
Thank you, Badger.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed that, please hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. If you think you've got a better answer or just want to tell us how wrong we are, leave a comment down below. Subscribe down here for new questions every day, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on our live shows. If you click over here, you'll see our latest upload. Over here, for what YouTube thinks you'll love the most. And finally, for a complete playlist of all our currently released questions, click here.